one GAC, continuing professional education credit, but you have to stay for the 1 hour. There will be somebody at the end of the aisle here who will scan your badge on your way out if you want full credit, but you've got to meet the 1 hour criteria here. Additionally, we have a microphone here for questions. Please come up and take the time to get to the microphone and ask questions, because if you don't, the people in the background won't be able to hear. There's so much background noise. So without any further ado, let me introduce Mr. James Curry, computer scientist, Cybersecurity Range Branch for Defense Information Systems Agency.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everyone. I'm James Curry. I'm the lead engineer for the DoD Cybersecurity Range with DISA. I want to introduce two guys who are helping me do this brief is Ernest McHale, and over there on the slides is Ivan Alaya. They are both with Mantech. They are very smart engineers that make my life much easier. So I'm very grateful to them to be there to help me. So I guess next slide, Ivan. So we've got the standard disclaimer that I'm sure you guys have seen a million times today. So, where are we going? I won't read it to you. Sorry, am I not close enough? Okay. So I'm just a quick agenda of what we're going to talk about. I'm going to give you a background on the CSR because talking about the transition to 2.0 makes no sense. Whoop. Let's get back on the right slide. Next one. Yeah, so I'll give you a background on the CSR 1.0 because the transition to 2.0 doesn't make sense without it. I'll give you a quick bottom line up front of what the 2.0 architecture means in terms of software-defined or networking. We'll go into the nerdy details of what the 2.0 design are. We'll talk about our target states for the next 2 years. And then I'm going to give you guys an actual use case of how we're using this technology now live in the field with JRSS training. And then we'll give you a demo because the best part about nerd stuff is showing it off. So let's go to the next slide. So the mission of the cybersecurity range was to build an environment for testing, training, and exercising of all of our cyber warriors in a realistic environment. And we did that in a couple of Zone C, which is isolated away from production, away from the internet networks, that were at multiple classification levels. So we had it at unclassed, secret, TSSCI, and we had representations of NIPR and SIPR within those bubbles. So for the secret, for example, we had both a NIPR and a SIPR representation in there, but it was all classified within a classified space. So when you're doing TTPs that would span across both, or you really want to bring in your fun, nasty toys that you want to keep secret, we keep the whole shebang was secret, but you still had a NIPR to train and exercise your folks on. Two things to highlight on here is that the cybersecurity range has always worked with interoperability. So other ranges such as the Joint IO range, the National Cyber Range, or C4AD, play heavily with the cybersecurity range, especially in large exercise such as CyberFlag, which had they've got like 600 people every year in that event, and so it's huge with a lot of different players, and we're always very successful there. And the latest thing we've been building is our unclassified VTE, which is our virtual training environment. That's in a Zone B or network, which means that that's accessible from anywhere. It's open internet, so we've migrated away from making that more of an exercise place where we put nasty stuff and much more focused on training and getting that training to the people who need it wherever they are, because they're not necessarily all coming down to Stafford every single time. It's nice to be able to hit them out, in PACOM and AFRICOM and things like that. Let's go ahead and hit the next slide. So the CSR 1.0, the way we've been doing stuff when we got set up, it was very hardware focused. And we did that because we were moving to match what production really was. And it was so successful that we've had to keep moving on with technology. Hardware has challenges, and the challenges are if lots of people want to use that hardware at once, you've only got the one piece, or you only got the two piece. You can't, have 3 or 4 customers come in and all want to use the same piece of hardware all at the same time because I've only got the one, and it costs a ton of money to get more. It also poses challenges when we have multiple classifications. If I move a piece of hardware up to a classified space because that's the requirement, I can't bring it back down without a huge headache. And so what we've done as technologies move forward, and we're keeping on the bleeding edge, is move to a much more hybrid, virtual-first solution, which allows us to solve all of the problems of having to manually reconfigure topologies and replug hardware. Now we just take virtual boxes. If we need more, we just grab more licenses. If we need to move it up a classification level, we'll just clone it, move it up, and when it's done, we throw it away, and the license is free to be used again at any classification you want because the box itself is gone to the ether. So it saves an incredible amount of time and configuration. It allows us to scale with the demand into the future much, much better than we've been able to do before. So there's just a ton of benefit. So that's where we're moving now, is to having a common automation framework and really moving to virtual first. So let's move on to the next slide, Ivan. So we really have three main approaches that define what CSR 2.0 are. The first one is resource authoring, and this is where we're spending the most of our time now because we're still mostly in phase one, moving into phase two, which is event authoring. So this is where we take everything that is going to be on your network, whether it is hardware, whether it is software, whether it is virtual. We need to define it as a persistent object. We need to say, this is your Windows box. And it's not just a Windows box. This is your Windows box with the patches set 6 months ago and these three, protocols on it and this piece of software running on it and PuTTY configured in this way. You save that state and then it's good forever. And then every time I need a Windows box with those configures, I can use it over and over again. So every firewall, all the pre-configured routers that are standard for, say, JRSS, or every firewall, every traffic gen, it's everything you're going to have in your network. You want to go out there and define and operationalize and saying, this is my goal. And you can have multiple of them. So I've got Win7 with 3 months ago, Win7 6 months ago, Win7 with HBSS, Win7 without HBSS. Define all of those things. And that gives you a pool to build anything you want to build, which leads into our next slide for event authoring. This is where we get an incredible amount of power, and for me personally as an engineer, a whole lot of joy in my life. What we're able to do with the technology we're using now is to build networks in drag and drop. So if you've got the ability to build the network you want to work on in Visio, you can use this technology. It's that easy, it's that simple, and we'll show you when we get to the demo part. So when you're building your networks that you, say, want your CPTs to go do some training on, or you've got certain students who need to get class, you can build the network. Just drag, I need 2 firewalls, a router, and a wind station, and I want them to work on the firewalls. Drag in 4 elements, and you're done. And it doesn't stop there. As we move on to event orchestration, if we hit the next slide, Ivan. So creating networks is easy, but the real beauty is cloning these networks. So you can build a simple or as a complex network as you want. You can bring in hardware in the loop to the user that's building it. You don't have to know or care what the real technology behind is. We can abstract all of that away. So you've got the ability to, I'm going to create a Fidelis network, and it's there specifically for Fidelis JRSS training. I can do that for one student. I've got 30 students coming up at once. I will clone 30 different ones, and these students will be able to do their lab work at their own pace without ever having to worry about, am I overwriting the admin actions of the previous student? Are we competing for the same resources? So long as I've got enough compute on my back end, as long as I've got enough storage on my back end, that's my only limit to how many networks I can spin up at a time, which is incredibly powerful and much, much more freeing than anything we've had previously. So let's go to the next slide from there. So this is our target states for the next 2 years of what we're building towards as we continue to redefine everything we've had as authored resources and plug and play them all together. So at the tier 1, the CSR has always had core router backbones, MPLS, sensing networks, IAP, and a JRSS. And we're taking the steps now to migrate all of those over to 2.0, which is going to be incredible freeing because then when we need extras, we need to use them for other stuff. It becomes so effortless. A good highlight there is our 2.0 classified range, which is a hybrid of Tier 1 NIPR and SIPR, and a cross-domain in between that's all being run by the 2.0 architecture. So let's go to the next slide from there. So this is just a quick highlight of what 2.0 brings, which is compared to 1.0, which is the philosophy of moving to virtualization to the greatest degree possible, managing that infrastructure over browsers, and building gold levels to finally make configuration management less of a nightmare for us. Let's hit the next slide there. One back. Previous. There you go. So we'll spend a little time here because this is where we start getting into the nuts and bolts. This is the architecture for our JRSS virtual training environment, which is actively being used now. We had training in February using this. We had training, I believe it was April 4th. We out in Fort Huachuca, they were using this. So let me sort of build this up from the bottom up and see if that makes more sense. So at the bottom, we've got all of our virtual JRSS technologies. That's Cisco devices, that's Juniper devices, that's Fidelis, that's F5, that's everything that could possibly be in the JRSS stack. Most of it is virtual, some of it is not, some of it can't be because there are no virtual equivalents. That's fine. All of that is managed by our federated hypervisor. So it's the one that is generating the VMs on the fly as the students demand them, configuring them to what they be, saying this is the computing resources this VM gets, it's spun up, here we go. Managing that federated hypervisor and all the hardware and stuff that can't be managed by our VM manager is an orchestration engine. And that orchestration engine ties everything together for the user, so it abstracts it away. So when you get to the higher level above that orchestration engine where you're actually hitting the LMS front end that we have, you're going to dial in and you'll see your hardware, you'll see your virtual stuff, and it's all the same to you. You'll click in and it'll load up a Windows box. You'll click in, it'll bring up your command line. So you can actually do configuration straight from where you're sitting on. And the goal is with the methodology of train how you fight, we want this to be as realistic as possible. So we want to be able to give you the ability to go directly to the command line of the tools that you're working with in your everyday job or working with to learn the technology and give you that real hands-on exposure. So let's go to the next slide. So this is a screenshot, and we'll show you a little more when we move to the demo half with Ivan. So this is an actual screenshot of the entire network that our Fidelis, or that our students are using to learn Fidelis and JRSS. We've got hardware in the loop. That's where our traffic generation is coming in. That's where our Fidelis box sits. It feeds to a Windows workstation with PuTTY, which is how you'll access the command line for Fidelis. And then it's just a switch and some network storage. That's all you need. And all I had to do is click and drag and clone it 30 times. And every student was working on their own boxes. So it's really just something we've never had before. So from there, I guess let's show you some of the cool stuff. Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
Jim, just a quick question for you. On the diagram that you showed, and I know Ernest helped you with a lot of these, going back to the multi-construct with the cross-domain, could we not shrink that footprint to allow us to do MILS using encryption and then shrink our investment requirement as well?
Can you say it a little again, into the mic a little louder? Sorry.
The diagram that you showed previously that has the multiple constructs joined by the cross-domain resource manager.
Yeah.
Could we not then, implementing different encryption layers, do multiple independent levels of security on the single host platforms in virtualization, shrinking our footprint and saving us cost?
Oh, absolutely. It's one of the beauties of this design is how effortless. Well, I don't want to say effortless because there is a lot of work and engineering behind it, but it's something that's so much more manageable. Is that approach?
Yeah.
So, Ernest, do you want to talk about some of the stuff that Ivan's showing here, or
is he going to stay there? Is he going to the LMS?
Let's stay in CypherPath.
Yeah,
We can.
let's stay in CypherPath. You want to close it? Ivan, go back to the pallet.
Apologies, give us just a second here. It's running a little slow.
Okay, you can go back to that pallet. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go.
No, all you. Go ahead.
So what we attempted to do here is illustrate largely an MPLS cloud with PE and CE routers. In the middle, you'll see a Cisco CRS backbone. Kind of gives you an idea of the scale and what you can put in the CipherPath containers. One thing to note here as well is that everything is actionable. Anything he clicks on or whatever, it will run. He can bring the Cisco CLI, the Viata CLI, every workstation, every traffic generator is all actionable. It can also be connected to physical. Although these are isolated containers, the containers can be connected to a physical infrastructure for hardware in a loop, as he was saying is the case with the Fidelis. Right. Another thing is that when you do not render this palette, the devices are still active and running. So just because he has not brought this palette up, because they're green, they can all be logged into remotely, not by the front end, but you can VNC into them, web into them, or whatever. So this is a true Type 1 hypervisor, fully contained. Another thing is I can take this and copy it 30 times and have this run 30 times. And simply, so for version control, we can create a master image, we can create a gold disk per se, and then just run and make edits off of that.
And one of the nice things I want to add on to that, so as we define gold images of what we want, say Ernest builds this really complex network, we use it for an exercise. I want to keep the old thing we have so the next group has the same starting point so we know they're getting the same value. But I don't want to lose what they had when they went in and made changes and made it better. We can save that as well. It's really, all of this is just a file in the end. So we can save it, we can export it, we can do whatever the heck we need to from either your starting point or any point along the road as you get through either your training, your testing, or your exercising.
Ivan, go back. Yeah.
Do you want to talk a bit about the performance we're getting out of that?
Yeah. So in this case, let's speak to that a bit. The capabilities of the containers and the efficiencies gained by the containers, we've noticed to be substantial. On the back end, what's occurring is that every container is actually, like she said, a single file. So the storage sees the dedupe is doing dedupe and compression on the files. So if I copy this 30 times, my dedupe becomes incredible because I'm actually, can you go to the container and just show the containers, the list of containers? So as you'll notice, here's the list of containers you can click on. Every single one is a file. They can actually be put on a thumb drive. So the storage, the SAN, is deduping and compressing off of these files. So we're noticing incredible efficiency. Go ahead, Jim. You want to say anything?
No, I was going to say that was really good. I'd love to show you guys the LMS as well, so we can show you the seamless integration between the front end, which is where we're managing, PowerPoint slides. If we have a video on here's how you step through to do this lab, and how that integrates directly into the meat of the nerd back end, where you can actually start bringing up your virtual machines and following along with the lab work or the exercises. But I'll also start taking some questions. So if there's anything you guys want to see or have questions about that we haven't talked about yet, come on up to the mic, ask away. Nobody brave. Yeah. So this is, there it goes. So this is your login for CTEP. That's exactly what you see. It's accessible to anyone with a CAC. The only thing we need is some sort of PKI credential to validate that you know more than just a username and password. But But once you get in there, you'll see a bar that lists all the courses, and then we're logged in as a teacher here. So these are all the courses that we teach. You'll see, so these are actual courses that are being used live in the field right now to teach our GRSS operators. Yeah, so you can see we've got descriptions of the courses. It's a full LMS with everything we need it to do. Ivan, can you grab to the point where you see where it lets you connect to the actual course and bring that up? So we're looking at Palo Alto here. So once you've logged in the course, you simply hit connect to course. You keep your LMS in there, but you get now a window with your Palo Alto. So Palo Alto firewall, switch, and a Win7 box. And then if you just load up the Win7 box there, by clicking on it, you'll hit the little gear tab. You give it a second because our network's slow, and you hit connect. It'll spin you up. It'll ask you for AVG stuff, but there's your Windows box right there. From your desktop, from anywhere you are, you're now in a Windows system on that network, able to connect to that Palo Alto and start doing configuration work. So if we can do it from here, you can do it from anywhere. Yeah, no, Ivan's doing it from his phone, from his mobile hotspot. Yeah. So I tried to keep this short so you guys can ask a whole bunch of questions, so I'm hoping somebody's got something for me. Yeah, if you want to come up to the mic so everybody can hear you.
Myron Kramer from BCT. What do you use for instrumentation or for range management to have like a white team capability?
So the question was, what do we use for white cell management? Yeah. Ernest, do you want to take that question?
We say white cell? So largely our white cell, in the case of using CypherPath, the front end becomes a white cell tool in case of CypherPath, right? We do not have to turn that over to the warfighters. That's something the white cell, so the orchestrator of the mission can use that and only give the actual combatants access to their machines in that environment. So in this case, we would leave that to the exercise organizers, i.e. or white cell. On a broader scale, we've teamed with Carnegie Mellon in the past for their white cell and their XNet step capability. We're also looking to integrate other orchestrators, Cloud Shell being a big one to give us some white cell capabilities. That's something we're evolving. Johns Hopkins, the Galaxy, yeah. Johns Hopkins APL as well. We work with them on that.
Go ahead, sir.
Hi, Russell Glenn, KW Corporation. So when you're doing these trainings or these assessments and the testing, do you have any way to kind of automatically through the Cyber LMS do any assessments on the fly of how the users are doing in their training of the tools? So beyond just getting hands-on in the operation of, do you have a way of scoring on the actual tool basis? Are they picking up the KSAs they need, the knowledge, skills, and abilities?
So two-part answer. One is we have the capability to do that. Two is that trying to phrase this nicely, it's a maturity aspect of the program to actually be able to judge and make the assessments that they're meeting their KSAs, to do that level of analysis. I think that's more on the training side, as we haven't really defined what we're looking for the LMS to measure to say, yes, they've gotten this far, yes, they've made that decision. So we have the capability to do it, but as the engineers, I'm in no position to say this metric is the one that matters and this is not the metric that matters. So that's kind of what we're looking for still as we grow and mature this program of, I'll measure anything you want to help you make any kind of decision you want, but I don't know what you want me to measure yet.
Okay, so you have collectible metrics off of the actual activities they're doing in the cyber range over and above the question response.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah,
great.
Well, yeah, to elaborate just a bit, this is still a work in progress for us, right? We haven't had this, we haven't used this methodology long. However, the APIs are very rich. Every single time you clone an environment, So you'll say, okay, so now how do I determine which is doing what? Because now I'm taking with it all the attributes, right? So now later on when I do my analysis, I got 30 containers, but everything looks the doggone same when I run my when I run against it. On the back end though, CipherPath tracks the containers and the machines and gives it a unique GUID. And you can data mine that as well. Okay. And then even though you have copied the container X number of times, you can extrapolate which ones were done where and do deeper analysis at that point. Yeah. So we're trying to get there.
No, the data's there to be mined. We just need more growth in mined for what.
Mined for what, and then develop those custom kind of almost analytics based upon that. To
yeah,
say
absolutely.
Good.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, Jim Lee, Mar4Res. So to follow up on that, who's developing this courseware? Are you getting with the programmer records and the Mixitics, the Mixesses of the world?
So the answer to that is it is the programs of record. So for JRSS, the JRSS PMO has been heavily involved. We've been working very closely with them. Had the actual instructors who are doing the TDY to these courses. We've made sure they've on this event, are defining which things they want built. So we don't just build a Fidelis network. We build a network that lets you do the specific thing they're trying to teach that is JRSS specific. So they're kind of telling us, I need a network that will let me do this to meet my training goals, and we're building it for them.
So since you're getting at the PM level, is the goal then for this to be initial training for like MOS training, pipeline training, or is this follow-on refresher training, or both?
So it has the capability to do both, absolutely. Right now it's initial training because JRSS is brand new and everybody needs spun up on it. But JRSS is by far not the limit to what we can do for this. So the training works for either case very easily.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Anyone else got a question? Yes, sir. Yeah, go ahead while he comes around.
Hello, sir. Does this do things such as layer 2 switching or ASIC-based processes? Like,
Ernest,
are there
That's a great
processes that it might have trouble with if it's ASIC-based on the fly?
Absolutely, you're absolutely correct. So in terms of switching, what they're doing with that, they're using the switching is simply you're dividing LANs. There's no tagging at all in the embedded switch. There are some workarounds. For instance, we're working with Arista right now because Arista makes a non-ASIC-based switch. So we can take the VEOS and put it in there, and then we have switch-like functions. On their roadmap, though, the next version of the embedded switch will be much more like the VMware distributed switch, not running true spanning tree layer 2, but be able to do VLAN segregation within the hypervisor. Outside of that, the connected physical then allows you to do that a little bit externally, but inside the containers, there is no true layer 2 going on as we would know it currently.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we've definitely had to MacGyver that a little bit as we wait for the actual product to mature to meet our layering needs.
Yes.
It's one of the things that every time we kind of want to do, since this is bleeding edge technology, every time we want to do a little more than it's capable of, while we give them time to develop, we've always found a very good way to MacGyver of this will work and this will give us everything we need, and then they'll just build it as part of the product, and then we're good to go. And we can make it simple again. Sorry, go ahead, sir.
So I've heard a lot about the training aspect of it, but getting into the testing, would this platform be able to test interoperability or even the cyber assurance, cybersecurity aspect of software-defined anything?
So the answer to that is absolutely yes. It's definitely capable of that. Are you guys doing much? I know I'm not sure if we're doing any testing on it now. Yeah, no, so the range as itself, that's one of its core missions. They do testing all the time, but I don't believe we're doing any testing yet in the 2.0 architecture, but it's absolutely capable of it.
So I'll jump in here real quick. For Mar4Res, we are using the Marine Corps Cyber Node or Cyber Range at Stafford for test and dev.
Right.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, obviously we don't have 2.0 yet.
No, and that's just as we migrate this to more of the stuff that the range does. Yeah, go ahead, Jeff. This is Jeff Combs, program lead boss of the range.
I want to glom on to what Dr. Lee was mentioning, that Mar4Res is using the Marine Corps node that is representative of the DoD CSR That node and the DoD CSR core capability sets are not going to change, even going to 2.0. So we will not lose our capability to support tests, to support training, to support exercise at every level, from Tier 3 to Tier 1, to a Talisman Saber, to a backyard exercise, or the interoperability associated with those exercises. We're never going to lose that. That's our core mission. We're just going to make ourselves better, faster, stronger at doing those things with the assistance of our partners at DISA, our partners at NSA, and Cyber Command.
Yeah, the benefit we get of buying less hardware and being able to provision things in days instead of weeks means we can just do so much more and so much more quickly, especially when we get last minute, hey, I'm about to exercise tomorrow. Can you guys drop in 3 more pieces of this piece of technology? If that was hardware, I'd be losing sleep that night. With 2.0, I would just drag it in and we'd be good. Any other questions? If there are no more questions, I can keep it short. I think you guys had to stay here for the full time to get the scanned credit for the thing. Yeah, no, she's giving me the thumbs up saying I can't let you guys leave for another 15 minutes or so. 5 minutes? You guys are running the admin show, whatever the rules are. Oh, I got to keep talking for 5 minutes.
Oh, we got a question. Yeah. Great.
I'll try to help with that. So, with aspects to testing, are there any strategic partnerships or other agencies lined up to support that?
Yeah, I was going to say DOT&E and I know JITC play heavily. Jeff, are there any other ones that...
McAtea.
Yeah. Go ahead and chime in.
So everybody can hear. McAtea, DOT&E, ATNL, and the Marine Corps Operational Test and Evaluation Activity are all partnered with us using the ranges, not just us, National Cyber Range, C4 Assessments Division, Joint IO Range, TSMO, so on and so forth. We all work together. You can't do this alone. It takes a federation of capabilities to support all the things that we need to support. Dahlgren Test Facility is now using the CSR for a lot of things that I can't say in this forum, but this is not a one-stop shop. We need help, and we support others as well.
And I would like to mention, I know we didn't show it off. Ivan, can you go back to the slide deck and just show off the last slide? So I want to give you guys contact information. So one of the big pushes I could say is the CSR is free for use. The only catch on that is that if you want to do something that we don't have, then it's BYOB. Because while it's free for use, that means we don't have the money to go buy every fancy toy that someone wants to go play with. But if you have your own toy and you want to come play with it and do some really fun things with it, the range will they love nothing more than helping you do really cool stuff with nerd tech. So the contact information to either hit DISA or any of the engineers at the CSR is the customer management team at crmt@mantech.com. Hit them, you will hit all of us. They are a wonderful bunch of people. They would be more than happy to support you getting any kind of exercise you want to run, any kind of testing or training you want to be a part of. If you want to learn more about the technology or just what are the capabilities of the range and what can I do down there, I can get you all of that information, and they will be more than happy to do so. So please reach out to them. Anyone else think of any questions or want something to be shown? I could talk about this all day, but yeah, go ahead.
So this is Jose. I'm the chief from DISA headquarters. Chief for the DoD CSR. And what I want to share with you is in order for us to be successful moving forward, we have to be able to partner with the different program management offices to bring capability down to the range in order for us to keep maturing our capability within our VTE, as well as where we're leaning towards in the internal infrastructure for 2.0. And so our model going forward is we would like to virtualize as much as we can to bring it into this UI interface or other additional interfaces that will get you the necessary things to do training, and exercise level engagements with your workforce. But that does mean that when you guys come down to the range, you have to have the planning cycles, the resources there to make sure that you can execute your training and your exercise event or whatever other events you might want to carry out in this particular environment.
Okay. Thank you.
I think you're good.
How am I doing on time, Afsia?
You're good.
All right. Well, if we're ready to go, I already feel bad holding you guys. Go enjoy your lunch. Enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you so much for coming to listen to us speak. Enjoy your weekend as well. Thank you.
Good job, Jim.
It was a much more quiet crowd than yesterday.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and hey, how you doing, sir? Nice to meet you. I'm Caleb. Yeah.